Our first story takes us to the heart of the Sahara Desert, one of the most hostile environments on Earth. In 1993, a French engineer named Emil Leray was on a solo expedition across Morocco. He was a man who loved adventure, a man who understood machines. But the desert doesn't care about your skills or your plans. Deep in a restricted military zone, far from any help, his trusty Citroën 2CV hit a rock, shattering its frame and axle. Stranded. The nearest village was miles away, an impossible journey on foot with his limited water supply. Many would have given up, surrendering to the blistering sun. But Emil was different. He wasn't just an engineer, he was a survivor. Looking at the mangled wreck of his car, Emil didn't see a tomb, he saw a toolbox. An idea, as audacious as it was brilliant, began to form in his mind. If he couldn't drive his car out, he would build something he could ride out. He decided to construct a makeshift motorcycle from the car's parts. This wasn't a simple repair job, this was an act of pure, desperate creation. He had a handful of tools, a dwindling supply of water, and the vast, silent desert as his workshop. The sun beat down on him relentlessly, forcing him to work during the cooler parts of the day and rest during the peak heat, conserving every drop of energy and sweat. For 12 grueling days, Emil toiled. He started by detaching the car's body, which he ingeniously used as a shelter from the freezing desert nights and the scorching daytime sun. This was a critical first step, not just for comfort, but for survival. He then set to work on the mechanical heart of his escape plan. He shortened the car's chassis, reattached the axle and two wheels, and then mounted the engine and gearbox in the middle. He was essentially performing open-heart surgery on his vehicle, with no manual and no margin for error. Every bolt unscrewed, every part repurposed was a gamble. The physical and mental strain was immense. He rationed his water, sipping just enough to stave off severe dehydration. The isolation was a constant mental battle, the silence of the desert broken only by the clang of his tools and the sound of his own breathing. He had to be a mechanic, an engineer, and a strategist all at once. He even had to figure out how to create a rudimentary seat and a steering system. The task seemed impossible, a madman's dream in the middle of nowhere. But with every passing day, his strange-looking contraption began to take the shape of a functional, albeit bizarre, motorcycle. Finally, after 12 days of relentless work, his desert camel, as some would later call it, was complete. It was a Frankenstein's monster of a machine, but it was his only hope. With his last bit of water, he fired up the engine. It sputtered to life. Emil Leray, the desert mechanic, rode his creation out of the wasteland. He was eventually picked up by a Moroccan police patrol who were stunned by his story and the incredible vehicle he had built. Emil didn't just survive the desert, he outsmarted it, proving that with enough ingenuity and grit, you can build your own salvation. From the dry heat of the desert, we travel back in time to the windswept coast of California in the 19th century. Our next story is one of profound solitude and unimaginable resilience. In 1835, a native Nicoleno woman, whose real name is lost to history but is known to us as Juana Maria, was living on the remote San Nicolas Island. Missionaries had decided to relocate the entire tribe to the mainland, but in the chaos of the evacuation, Juana Maria realized her child had been left behind. She leaped from the departing ship and swam back to shore, only to find her child had been killed by wild dogs. The ship, facing an approaching storm, sailed on without her. She was now utterly alone, the last of her people on an island that had been her home, but was now her prison. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and the months into years. For 18 years, Juana Maria survived in complete isolation. Think about that. No human contact, no one to speak to, no one to share the burden of existence with. Her survival depended entirely on her resourcefulness and her deep knowledge of the natural world. She was a master of her environment, a true testament to the skills passed down through generations. To protect herself from the harsh winds and weather, she constructed a shelter using the massive bones of whales that had washed ashore, weaving a roof from reeds and sealskins. This wasn't just a crude hut, it was a home, a sanctuary against the elements and the crushing loneliness. For food, she became a skilled hunter and gatherer. She crafted fish hooks from shells and abalone, weaving lines from plant fibers to catch fish from the rocky coastline. She hunted seals, using their pelts for clothing and their blubber for fuel and warmth. She gathered roots, eggs, and shellfish, maintaining a varied diet that kept her strong and healthy. Her mental fortitude is almost impossible to comprehend. Imagine the silence, the endless cycle of sunrises and sunsets with no one to witness them but you. She would sing and chant to herself, keeping her language and her spirit alive in a world devoid of other human voices. She created tools, clothing, and everything she needed from the island's resources. Her life was a continuous act of creation and adaptation. She didn't just subsist, she lived, maintaining her humanity against the overwhelming force of solitude. Her story is a powerful reminder that we are more than just social creatures. We are beings of immense inner strength. In 1853, a sea otter hunter named George Nadiver discovered her. He and his crew were astonished to find a person living alone on the supposedly deserted island. They brought her back to the mainland, to Santa Barbara, but the world she returned to was one she no longer understood. She couldn't communicate with anyone, as the last native speaker of her language had died years before. Tragically, after 18 years of surviving on a natural diet, her body couldn't handle the modern food she was given. She contracted dysentery and passed away just 7 weeks after her rescue, a heartbreaking end to an incredible saga of survival. Juana Maria's legacy is one of silent, profound strength, a lone woman who mastered her world. Our final journey takes us to the vast, empty wilderness of the Pacific Ocean. This is the story of Jose Salvador Alvarenga, a Salvadoran fisherman whose tale of survival pushes the boundaries of human endurance to their absolute limit. In November 2012, Alvarenga and his young companion Ezequiel Cordoba set out from the coast of Mexico for a 2-day fishing trip. They were experienced fishermen in a small, open-topped boat. But the ocean is unpredictable and respects no one. A massive storm, a norther that lasted for 5 days, descended upon them, destroying their engine and washing their supplies overboard. They were adrift. The currents of the Pacific had them in their grip, pulling them further and further into the blue abyss. Their GPS was dead, their radio useless. All they could see in any direction was the endless horizon of water. Days turned into weeks. Their initial hope of a quick rescue faded, replaced by the grim reality of their situation. The immediate challenge was sustenance. They had no food, no fresh water. They had to learn to catch fish, turtles, and seabirds with their bare hands. This was survival at its most primal. Alvarenga, the more experienced seaman, taught Cordoba how to survive. They drank turtle blood and their own urine to stave off dehydration, collecting precious rainwater in an empty plastic bottle whenever a squall passed. The raw food was brutal on their systems, but it was life. The mental toll was perhaps even greater than the physical one. The loss of his companion, Cordoba, about 4 months into the ordeal, was a devastating blow. Cordoba, unable to stomach the raw diet, had refused to eat and eventually starved to death. Alvarenga was now truly alone, adrift with the body of his friend for 6 days before finally having to let him go into the ocean. The guilt and grief were immense. Alvarenga battled hallucinations, speaking to his dead companion, imagining elaborate feasts, and fighting off sharks that circled his small boat. He kept his mind active by imagining his favorite foods and replaying his life story over and over. He marked the passing of time by the phases of the moon, a lonely calendar in a world without days or nights. His body wasted away, but his will to live, fueled by the desire to see his family again, burned like a beacon. He was a speck of life in an ocean of death, a testament to the mind's power to keep the body going long after it should have quit. After an unbelievable 438 days at sea, having drifted over 6,700 miles across the Pacific, Alvarenga spotted something he hadn't seen in over a year: land. It was a tiny, deserted atoll in the Marshall Islands. He swam to shore, a skeletal figure crawling onto the sand. He was discovered by locals, his ordeal finally over. He had survived the longest solo journey ever recorded for a castaway at sea. Jose Salvador Alvarenga's story is not just about catching turtles or drinking rainwater, it's about the sheer stubborn refusal to die. It's a story of enduring unimaginable loss and isolation to finally, miraculously, find your way home. Emil Leray, Juana Maria, and Jose Salvador Alvarenga. A mechanic in the desert, a lone woman on an island, and a fisherman lost at sea. 3 different people, 3 different worlds, but all united by one incredible force: the will to survive. Their stories are extreme, but they tap into something deep within all of us. The ability to innovate when faced with impossible odds, the strength to endure soul-crushing loneliness, and the mental fortitude to keep fighting when every fiber of your being tells you to give up. These 3 stories remind us that even in the harshest conditions, the human spirit can endure the impossible. They show us that our minds are our greatest tool, and hope is our most vital nutrient. When stripped of everything, we discover a core of resilience we never knew we possessed. It's a profound and humbling lesson about our own potential. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, remember these individuals who faced the ultimate test and refused to break. Remember the power that lies within you. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. The world is full of amazing stories of survival, each one a testament to the strength we carry inside us. If these stories moved you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What is the most incredible survival story you've ever heard? Until next time, stay curious, stay strong, and never ever underestimate the power of the human spirit.